we talked a lot about the new possibilities, the new tools, the new features developed by Google with your extensive and impressive presentation, Mike. We're now going to turn to one of the other side, which is worrying. It is about the regulatory perspectives and what's going on now in the EU as regards the data protection and the e-privacy approach. And I want to invite on the stage Red Grammatic from FEDEAFO, the German association, Irina Riedel from Müller Verlag in Germany, and Margrit Kaluza-Baumrucker from Herald in Austria. And we're going to try to drive you through the current EU initiatives about data protection and e-privacy. I'll just take the clicker. So if you can load the... Okay. So yeah, that's fine. Oh, not working. Okay. It was working until you moved it. That's fine. Okay. So the first point we wanted to allude to is the GDPR. So GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation, and in a nutshell, this is the new EU law about privacy and data protection. It's already adopted, so there's nothing to do in terms of lobbying level, let's say, to change the text. It's already adopted, it's already effective. The trick is that the EU countries have until May 2018 to implement it, so meaning that to adapt their own laws to make it GDPR compliant. So what's interesting to see and important to see at the moment is not so much what's happening at EU level, because nothing is really happening anymore with the European Commission and the European Parliament at EU level on GDPR. It's what's happening at national level. And we see that some countries already transposed the GDPR into their own set of rules and have adopted bills or ordinance laws that are making it already compliant with the national order. This is the case for Germany, for example. Spain is in the process of having this bill. France is late. The UK just released the draft 1 month ago. And the common principles are going to be the same. So we know that the grounds for data processing are going to be the same. There are a set of, let's say, basic rules, guidelines that are going to be the same everywhere, but still we can see from the various drafts that the tendency and the little details could be differing from one country to another. So again, the goal of full harmonization of the general data protection regulation is not 100% happening. And so you see on the slide this kind of three-layer approach. And what's also more important for you and for your SMB clients at the moment is to really act on that at company level. Because what GDPR is changing is that it makes the company accountable for data protection. So it's changing the perspective, and it's not so much about privacy controls by the data protection authorities and notifications that you were supposed to do previously to your data protection authority. Now you are, as a data controller, because you are processing data, you are supposed to be accountable. And so it means that you are supposed to be knowing the law and to be acting internally to get your compliance in order. So it means that you need to do several things, and of course it depends. It's very different if you have a big company with big legal departments and also involve all departments, or if you're a one-man company. But no matter which size, GDPR applies for all. So what we are working on at CINDA is a white paper to flag out these particular elements and to have a kind of toolkit, very basic instrument to help you and to, more important, to help your SMB clients, your one-person sole traders who will have to comply with GDPR, understand what they have to do. And this would be so focusing on what is the data protection impact assessment, how the links with GDPR and national laws are happening, and also what rights and obligations as a data controller you have, and what rights do the data subject have. So we're focusing on that, making it really tool-oriented, let's say, and not so much legally descriptive. And we hope that this is going to be also something that you can use as a CINDA member to help your SMB customers understand the impact, because we all know that the impact is big. I mean, if we're talking about the fines for data protection breaches now, if there is a breach, it could go to 4% of your global turnover. And no matter which size, no matter, it can be really high. And there's joint responsibility, of course, with the data controller and the data processor. So, I mean, we're talking about important risks. So this was one of the major things that we focused on at CINDA level at the moment. But as said, I mean, this is more on a practical level now, because the law is already enacted. What's really keeping us awake at night at the moment is the e-privacy. And the e-privacy is the new elephant in the room, let's say, coming from the European Commission and the Parliament right now. So it's a regulation, which is important. So it's a draft. It's not yet adopted at European level. So that's why we'll still have some big actions in order to try to modify the content. And it's a regulation. So a regulation, this is important because it means that it's directly applicable as the GDPR, and you have a very little leeway in amendment possibilities when it's adopted. So, right, you want to go on?
Okay. So hello everybody. The working title of this session was "The Beauties and the Beasts," so you can imagine my role. So thank you. Yeah, we are very happy that so many of the participants of the CINDA conference will listen to us. We were a little bit worried about to be nearly the get-out dancers of this conference. So thank you very much that you listen to us. Honestly, we have to deal with a European legislation that can kill your business models, your companies, yours and your employees' jobs, and that's not only for directory publishers or inquiry services, but for all internet companies, for all app companies, and so on and so on. I can't personally remember of a planned legislation that is so existence-threatening for the most of us. In Germany, you know about our very special structure of our branch there. Around 120 of my 140 member companies would be dead if this proposal of the European Commission would be a law in the wording of the first draft. Since last December, when the first draft of the new e-privacy directive was leaked, we are dealing with this very important issue. And when I say dealing, I think of dealing days and nights, and it's not a joke. I think all of us dreamed about e-privacy, and those were not happy dreams, but nightmares. Very soon we had to recognize that this proposal of a regulation, a European law, as Stephanie said, that has not to be implemented in your national laws in your country, a law that would become valid when it passes the European decision makers, is very dangerous for all of us. The e-privacy contains a lot of certain issues that carry us back in the stone age of digital information society under the pretext of data protection. The premise or the red line in this regulation is a consumer or user that's a person underage that has to be protected from every danger in every shape and that you find in the internet and in your whole digital life. So it's very frustrating sometimes. Very interesting in this context were some meetings with representatives of countries like Lithuania, Estonia or Czech. They laugh about us living in the digital stone age. They don't use paper anymore. Everything is digital. And the contrary, in Berlin, our main city in Germany, you need up to 3 weeks to register a new car. 3 weeks. In Lithuania, I think they do it in 5 minutes. But back to e-privacy. What is e-privacy? Every one of you never heard of e-privacy? No, okay, everyone. It's great. Yeah, e-privacy is the biggest challenge for our industry. Openly said, it's a pain in the ass, but the European publishers and advertising associations found this too harsh, and so they created another campaign called Like a Bad Movie. Not only for us, as I said, but for all media companies. E-privacy will a regulation, not a directive. We talked about it and we explained it to you. So we have to deal with it when it comes through. And what is e-privacy for all of us shows a little video of this campaign of the European associations. I think that's the second one. That's the first one. Okay.
In revising the e-privacy regulation, the European Commission set out to reinforce trust and security in the digital single market. But instead of making things better, they would make things worse and more confusing for European consumers. To put it bluntly, the e-privacy regulation is like a bad movie. Luckily, we can still change the ending. But first, let's take a step back. Here's why the proposed reforms are bad for consumers. Data-driven ad revenue helps make high-quality journalism possible. With that revenue diminished, funding for a wide choice of media content will be squeezed. Many independent publishers will start to downsize, and some may even disappear, making it more difficult to hold power to account. For the consumer, this means far fewer independent sources of information and less diversity of opinion. Do you want to always accept cookies, never accept cookies, or accept first-party cookies but reject third-party cookies? These are just some of the perplexing questions consumers will be asked over and over again, when all they want to do is access the content and services they love. Bombarded with questions, consumers will find themselves exhausted, confused, and unsure what granting consent actually even means. The tech startups behind the world's best apps often rely on data-driven ad revenue to offer their apps for free and scale up their companies. Without it, their business model basically falls apart. Less revenue will mean fewer startups and eventually fewer apps for consumers. Europeans prefer to access content and services for free, but without revenue from data-driven ads, free stuff will be in severely short supply. From one day to the next, consumers could be in for a rude awakening that requires them to pay up or be left in the cold. The e-privacy regulation is like a bad movie, but policymakers still have time to change the ending. Here are 3 things they can do to help alleviate the damage. By including other grounds for data processing, such as legitimate interest, companies will be able to operate whilst respecting stringent measures to ensure consumer privacy. Consumers deserve to understand what's happening with their data. So by designating browsers as gatekeepers, the providers of online services can't directly inform their consumers about how their data is used. This can leave consumers badly informed and stops businesses having a direct dialogue regarding consumer preferences. The GDPR already provides a basis for handling personal data. Aligning the e-privacy regulation fully with the GDPR will help address uncertainty in how data should be processed. There's still time to get this right.
And the second one right behind? The second one right behind? Okay. This one? No, it's okay. It's if you listen carefully, you won't have listened to one sentence. The directories were not in this video. That's because there are up to 20 articles in the new e-privacy directive, and we are only one article of this, Article 15, we are dealing with, and what? So we are only a very small part, but it's very important for our branch, of course. So. No? Not? You'll find all these videos and a lot more under the URL likeabadmovie.eu. So it's very interesting for all of us. It's okay? Then
we've been asked. Where's Dave?
Or we go further on.
Just go.
Okay. So, as I said, we have to deal with Article 15, and what means Article 15 for us? The directory publishers shall obtain the consent of users. Directory publishers are not only directory publishers, but every one of us who's dealing with telco data, inquiry services as well, shall obtain the consent of users that are natural persons prior to including their data in a directory. So we have to do this, and not the telcos anymore. The problem, you see, we have no contact to the natural persons making a new contract at the point of sale of a telco, or buying a starter package at Aldi or another shop. Directory publishers shall give those end users the means to verify, correct, and delete their data. So again, we have to do it. Directory publishers shall inform users about existing and new search functions. That's the easiest part, I think. Directory publishers shall inform end users that are legal persons about the possibility to object against the data related to them to be included in a directory. Unfortunately, today, the Commission doesn't know why they made this Article 15. We asked them, the council asked them, and they said, oh, we don't know anymore, because the guy who wrote it, it's gone. He's now in the energy department, and we have no clue. That's the situation we have to deal with. Problems, of course, directory publishers are obliged with all the duties. Telcos and carriers are out. Opt-in for natural persons, opt-out for legal persons. Directory publishers don't know the natural persons, of course, so goodbye in Germany, white pages. Joe the plumber and Michael the dentist are not a legal person, so goodbye for up to 70% of the yellow pages. What about the existing data? No word about this. No obligation for telco providers and carriers and the OTTs, that's a chance for us, to share the data with the directory publishers. And some more problems. That's the situation in Germany if Article 15 would be valid. You know, John Doe makes a new contract, a new telco contract, he gets a telephone number, and all the directory services, all the directory publishers have to ask them for his will to be included in a directory. And of course, the only part to deal with it would be to ask them at the point of sale, and in Germany we have up to 50 players if we count all the inquiry services within. So it's a big deal, and I think and most of the people we spoke with, it's impossible for us. But there are chances too. E-privacy applies for OTTs too. All the Skypes, Facebook, WhatsApps, D-mail, e-post in Germany are under the same law if it will pass. And there will be maybe some new chances for new business models when we are successful with this. This is the wording of Article 15. I think we we don't deal with it anymore. So we have at Cinder, we pointed out 5 bullet points, our questions. Only the operators of electronic communication services are able to collect the data, of course, and not the directory publishers. Opt out for all users, natural and legal persons. The operators have the obligation to make the data of their users available for every directory publishers in a non-discriminatory, fair manner at a cost-oriented price. Users acting in commercial intent, remember Joe the plumber, should have the same possibilities and rights like legal persons, and the regulation should not apply for existing data that are published already, or data the user provides themselves. So these are our 5 bullet points we made in a lot of meetings with members of parliaments, with members of the council, and even the commission. Oh, sorry, your part? Yeah. Okay, the beast is finished, now the beauty's coming.
Hi guys, good morning. So I will try to go on. So we all had and have to do an awful lot of lobbying. We have even an expertise of an independent data protection expert saying that opt out also for natural persons. Huh? Okay. Which one? So opt-out even for natural persons are in line with the data protection. In the European Parliament, 750 members of Parliament of 9 parliamentary groups from far left to far right we had to join and to talk about. With the responsible committees for dealing with the privacy, LIBE, ITRA, IMCO, JURI, with their rapporteurs and the shadows. With all the own, of course as well, with the own national authorities. With the European Council, so with the representatives of all the 28 member states. We have Britain as well in the EU. With the presidency of the Council, which changes every 6 months. We have been in Estonia. In 2018, we will be as well in Bulgaria, and at the end of 2018, we will go to Austria, because Austria will be the presidency afterwards, with other European and national associations and players. And our political activities so far: preparation to clear and concise position papers and proposals for the different involved political stakeholders, regular communication and meetings with all relevant parliamentary groups in the European Parliament, and meetings with rapporteurs, alliance building with other associations in Germany and everywhere. And Cinda is doing a very good job and is trying to get contacts and to get meetings. For example, on Friday we will be in Brussels, and we will have an appointment with the representatives of Spain, and in the evening at 5 o'clock in the evening on Friday we will be with the representatives of Litauen. So you see, we are struggling. And our results so far, that we have rock solid cooperation with the German Ministry for Economy in Germany against the plans of the EU Commission, additional positive feedback from countries such as France and Poland, for example. And then we involved the EP committees for industry and internal market have voted in our favor. So we hope that we will get positive things. But the regulation is, due to other issues such as online advertising, highly controversial. Decision making takes time and involves trade-offs. So we are struggling, and we hope we will we get in our way things done. Now let's market.
Well, actually, that was not what we were talking about. Well, it's not really what we decided on, but yeah. But you see, when Red is doing this, he is unstoppable.
Sorry for that.
Well, what is now going to be, there are, we have three, we are now working with we have the commission. The commission caused all the mess we are now working, we have to work with. The mess with Article 50. And now we tried to convince the essential parts of Parliament that this is really not doable, what the Commission said, and now we are working on the Parliament. And after that, there is the third party, the Council. And now we have to address the Council, and which means that we have to address the ministries of the different countries. And after that, these three organizations will get together in a so-called trilogue, and then they will work out what finally is going to be decided and what is probably going to be the law. So you see, as Irene and Stephanie said, there is a lot to do in the next month and definitely in 2018. So we have to be aware and we have to work together and to cooperate. And each of you has to contribute this in your every own interest. Please help us and go to your MEPs, go to your ministries and say, well, if you decide on what the Commission said, then you will erase thousands of jobs in the EU. You will erase a whole business segment. So please help us. Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, just to give you some feedback also, so to back up what everything that this is turning into Cinderella, whatever, you know, we're doing. So no, just to back you up on what everybody said. I mean, we are at critical times politically talking with this legislation. So it's not going to be adopted tomorrow, but we see on a daily basis at the moment some changes happening in the amendments with the European Parliament. It's politics, and as Margrethe and Irene said, it's trade-off. And of course the e-privacy is much more larger than the pure Article 15, and in the negotiations that are happening in Parliament and in the Council, you can never be sure if your issue is not going to be one of the trade-offs. And this is what we want to avoid, and this is why we need to have as much awareness raising and national contacts coming from you also to raise the issue in your countries. So this is a summary of the planned political timetable. It's subject to change, but we see that I mean, these coming months and years are going to be the most important to get really the action done.
So please let me add one point. Why did the Commission do so? Why did they formulate this Article 15? Before the Commission sets up a draft for a new law, they usually make a survey and a so-called impact assessment. All stakeholders were asked in summer 2016, last summer, summer the year before, about some issues. We, of course, too. We wrote a lot about OTT and the need for an equal handling of OTTs with the traditional telco companies, providers. But there was not the smallest hint or sign that directories could be intended in this draft. So we were totally surprised about this wording. We now know that some people in the Commission thought directories and the data would help fraud, cold calls, direct marketing, and all these things. The consumer thing is sorry for this. It's a fraud for the consumers, or they don't want to have to deal with cold calls and so on and so on. Unfortunately, no one in the Commission didn't know anything about us, our businesses, and that's why it's so important that we deliver information about our business models, our businesses, our companies, the things we do for the small and medium businesses, and all these things, all the role we play in the society and in the economic surrounding. That's one reason you all please need, we need all your informations, and you have please to communicate about your business, the way you protect users' data, and what directories mean for SMBs, and of course for natural persons also, because we provide communication, we provide information, and in a modern society, in a modern communication society, it's not only useful, it's absolutely necessary, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just adding to Red's plea. We really need your involvement, and we need your involvement because you also need SINDA and VTFO and all the associations to act on your behalf to try to mitigate that. Because the reason why we're doing that is that, as Red said, there is a clear confusion in the politicians' mind about they don't understand the business model at all. And the first thing we have to do is, of course, to explain to them what different business models exist. But for that, we want to have, at SINDA level, a comprehensive overview of the various different business models, the various players, how it's working in one country and in another, because it's not the same. I mean, it's different in Germany than in Austria, it's different from the UK, it's also different from France. It was working perfectly until now, but now the Commission has decided to change the national rules, so it's going to have an impact. Second thing, we have to be also, we're really working on differentiating us from the direct marketing guys, and this is something you have to have in mind also internally when you're handling your data linked to the GDPR 2, is that be crystal clear on data usage you have. If you're using data for directory inclusion, that's fine. If you are reusing or selling data to third party for direct marketing, you have to be extremely clear if you're allowed to do so nationally on what you do. Third thing, in order to get all this comprehensive overview at SINDA level, we really need data input from all of you. So all the members of the Public Affairs Committee, and I just encourage you to contact us to be involved in that. You don't need to be present at all calls or meetings, but I mean, the minute we get a positive meeting request from one of the perm reps, it's always more efficient if you go to a meeting with a representative of the industry from the country. You have to, otherwise, I mean, you're not credible at all. So we need to get as many members' involvement as possible, and I mean, we can exchange on a regular basis, on a different point-to-point basis. More important and critical at the moment is really this input that we need on the market, on the number of players, on the subscriber inclusion methods, on the links with the telco and everything, to be able to have this overview and coverage. And also, I mean, we want to insist on the progress that we've made with some of the amendments. We went to several meetings. We did a lot of explanatory discussions, convincing efforts, and everybody says this is not the most contentious issue, it can be fixed. But the problem is that since it's not the most contentious issue, it can also be forgotten as a trade-off in the discussion, and this is not what we want to happen. So the core things would really be also to have a clear distinction between natural persons and person acting in a private capacity and person acting in a business capacity, because if this is blurred, which is the case at the moment, then there really is a problem with, for every listing, not only the white pages but also the yellow pages and all the information that we talked about this morning with the new APIs. So it's really important. It's really a big issue that is going to affect not only the, let's say, traditional business, but it could affect also all your future business plans. So again, I mean, be involved with one of us. We are really following that on a very regular basis on that, and you can just contact us, and of course, we'll keep you posted on the progress, so through Cinda events, maybe also through some dedicated events, and communication means with the association. We will, I mean, Cinda is here to act for its members, and this is really a members' need that we act together and collectively on that.
Steph, can I just add, we sent out the email last week, okay? So we've gotten back about, I'd say 50%. So I'd really like to ask you to look at that email and delegate it to somebody and try to get it back to us by next week. So we have a deadline, because if we kind of just leave it open, then we might be getting it another month. And the reason we need it right away is that if we have the opportunity to have a meeting with a member country, we need that information, and then you'll be invited to that meeting, because as Stephanie said, if we're going to Belgium, then of course one of our Belgian members should be there. But we need all that information, and that information is also going to be accessible to you through the Dropbox, so that when you look at that, if you're in negotiations yourself and you need to see, you know, what is the position of Holland as opposed to Belgium, then you have access to that information. But try to really get it to us within the next 7 days, because I think that's the most important issue, is we get that information consolidated. Yeah, question.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Elizabeth Keurig from Uberall, and I'm new to this industry. But I can say, coming from a cloud computing background, we have coalitions like the I2 Coalition or Eco-Verband in Germany that deal with internet infrastructure and you know, these types of issues with privacy, working with politicians. And it's a coalition of volunteers that join together to team up for things like this. So to be honest, for this initiative, it's critical for all of us in the room here today. But for example, I can just speak for myself that I didn't receive the email. So I don't know if there are others as well, but if we maybe didn't get the email, is there a way that we could get this information to support what you're doing? Or is there, you know, a LinkedIn group or a way to get?
Yeah, I mean, we can post that on the website. We will resend also through Monkey Survey and email, but we can definitely post that on the website, and then you can fill out. And I think the most important is also to liaise with us and to be involved in on a delegated basis, let's say, on a point-to-point basis when things are moving in a particular country. The trick of the game is that it's not a clear set in stone process. I mean, you saw the timetable. It's changing overnight, really. I mean, the next vote is tomorrow, and it's been changing. The date has been postponed like 3 times. It's probably going to change again. You can have a meeting and suddenly it's cancelled the last minute, you know, and you can have a position which seems to be firm and acted by all the political players, and suddenly you're in a trade-off and it's gone. So that's why we really need to have this market data available to build the case. And I get your point on the coalition building. We're doing that with some of the folks in Brussels, of course. You saw the movie on like a bad movie, and so we have some ties nationally and also at Brussels levels with some of the biggest players, let's say. we need to be also careful in what we pick and what we don't. As I said, I mean, the direct marketing is an obvious tricky one, and again, this point is really specific to the data industry, to the data and directory industry. So it's really critical for us that we act together. Thank you. Yeah, we're not putting that much on the regulatory decisions, or because some of them was also, I mean, some of the amendment building, it's a cumulative process, let's say. So you need to evolve, and you need also to take into account, as the SINDA association, of course, we have to take every member opinion and position into account, and so when we build our paper, our position paper involvement, we have to keep this neutrality approach in place. But I mean, the best is really send us an email, send me an email at stephanie@silda.com, and we'll get you involved.
And what? One additional point, please try to get in contact with your ministry dealing in your country with directory services. Try to get a contact, try to explain your business model. If there are a lot of people making decisions who don't know about us, about the business models, about the employees, the number, and all the role we play in your country. Please do that, and because your country is very important, because every country has a seat in the council, and if they are voting, it's very important that your country is dealing with the same things.
No. Is it? Yeah, I would like just to jump on what you just said, Rhett. Is here you come to us and you tell us, okay, this is what we should do, okay? Now, why don't we do this? We just go to the audience, say, who here around knows someone in the political world in his own country? Just raise your hand. Do you know any politician here? Like ministries, MPs, who knows someone in its native country that is a politician that can have an impact on this? Okay, so pretty much that's your job, okay? Okay, I mean, I can help in my country, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, that's
there's nobody here that can help. Yeah. That means that the job has to be done here.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do with this.
It's important to know that when you ask them, okay, then the report is crucial. So to report here and to make the case so help them do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's the point.
I mean, this is also something to bear in mind, is that if you want to be credible, you have to prove that, you know, you have the national assets and stuff. So first thing is to be able to describe the market in the most accurate way. And this is why we're also trying to build that. And the second is that everything, I mean, there are 28 member states, and although it's a regulation, you know that influence of powers can be shifting and can be balanced in different ways. So it's really critical that we get this members' involvement also, and no matter if you don't know personally a minister or a civil servant, you are probably, or your legal department or your data department is probably dealing with some of the civil servants, Ministry of Telecom, whatever, you know, digital market, internal market, who are following this initiative, and this is this contact that we need to consolidate and have.
Yeah. And maybe to add something, Stephanie, you put a list of MEPs of the different countries.
Yes.
And so I think this is a great start for you to look who is the MEP of your country, and and contact this person. And I think we all made the experience that these people are quite happy when they are informed, because they usually don't know. It's our Article 15 is only a very, very smart part, of this huge legal work, and they have no idea, and so they are happy to be informed.
Yeah, so I mean,
Nick has one last question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, where are the newspapers on this issue? And I guess my point is that if business models are threatened and newspapers go out of business because they can't sell advertising, that threatens the communication of information, right? Which is a real big problem. And I would think that they would be on your side on this issue, and probably are a lot more threatening to politicians
They are, of course.
than you are.
They are.
So
they are, and the whole the whole newspapers and online advertising industry. So not only the publishers, but also the third-party ads, let's say, are united on that. Really united on. They are doing some big campaigns, hence the bad movie system and so on and so forth. So yeah, they fully support. I mean, they fully support the position. The most influential opponents, let's say, and why this came into place it's driven by the digital rights defendants and the consumer defendants, and the fact that some politicians in Brussels or some very extreme, let's say, civil rights defendant activists still think that the consumer is stupid and he needs to be protected from every privacy invasion on the internet. And I'm putting that bluntly, but clearly this was the driver behind. And so now we need to go back to a workable thing. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna have to wrap that up. But I mean, again, we're all there. Happy to connect with you, and we'll send around again this information. And please contact Kim or me or Red, Irene, and Margaret to be involved on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.